The Midnight Gang by David Walliams and illustrated by Tony Ross. Chapter 14, Deep Freeze. The four children travelled along corridor after corridor in the basement of Lord Funt Hospital. They passed the boiler room. Tom peered in as he struggled to push Amber in her wheelchair. Inside was a giant water tank the size of a swimming pool. Coming in and out of the tank were huge copper pipes which rattled and hissed away. Next the children passed a dark, dank storeroom. Again Tom peered in. It seemed to be full of nothing more than old junk. A ripped hospital mattress was lying on the floor. The gang pressed on. Finally, a sign ahead of them read, Deep Freeze. "Here we are," announced Amber. Tom was only wearing his pink frilly nightdress. "You're joking," he exclaimed. "Well, what do you mean?" replied Amber. "We can't go in the deep freeze," protested the boy. As they opened the door to what was a giant freezer which stored tons of hospital food, Amber said, "We're not going into the deep freeze, we're going to the North Pole." "The North Pole?" asked Tom. He looked towards Robin and George, but they did not react. "What do you mean we're going to the North Pole?" "It's always been my dream to be the very first girl to go to the North Pole," said Amber. "As soon as I am out of hospital, I am going to be a world-famous explorer. I am going to be the first girl to reach the North Pole too." And there's a great picture of her. "I'm going to be the first girl to reach the South Pole too. I want to sail solo around the world. I want to climb the highest mountain, dive down to the very bottom of the sea. I want to have adventures beyond your wildest dreams." Tom stood silently listening, wishing he could dream this big. He had always been quiet and even rather timid at school. Tom never wanted to stand out. Now the boy was being asked to reveal his big dream, and to his shame he realised he didn't even have one. Then Tom asked, "Were you exploring when you broke your arms and legs?" George gave Tom a look as if to say, "Don't go there." As for Amber, she looked extremely annoyed at being asked the question. "If you must know," she began, "it was a mountain climbing accident." "Well, that isn't strictly true, is it, dear?" said Robin. The girl was starting to look uncomfortable. "Well, all right. I was doing mountain climbing training." That still sounded impressive to Tom. "I wouldn't exactly call it mountain climbing training," said Robin. "What would you call it then, clever clogs?" snapped the girl. "I would call it falling off the top bunk," answered Robin dryly. Tom tried hard not to laugh, but he couldn't suppress himself. He couldn't help himself. He burst into helpless laughter. laughed George. Within moments, the rather dry Robin was laughing too. "Silence! The lot of you!" screamed Amber. Seeing how angry this was making the only girl, the boys laughed even more. "I'm waiting," she said, sounding rather like a teacher. Eventually the laughter died down and Amber announced, "Now come on, you silly boys. We are going to be the very first children to reach the North Pole." George beckoned Tom to help him, and together the pair slid open the huge metal door to the freezer room. A blast of Arctic air hit the four full in the face. As the cold air met the warm air, a white mist was formed. At first this mist covered everything. Slowly it cleared, and at last the children saw the most magnificent sight. End of chapter 14. Bye-bye.